So when you are subjective, you are thinking of ideas. When you are subjective, is you're nostalgic of the opportunities. When you are objective, you are looking at the opportunities and you have no nostalgia for opportunities because they are the fact of the day, the fact of the next trend coming. So that's what's very, very important. Once you believe in this, you you're worried about people over focusing on ideas. Now, how do you come up with opportunities? It's okay to start thinking about ideas and then looking for opportunities that would support your ideas. That's, I believe, the most common way of um, identifying opportunities because it's a human trait to first think in terms of ideas and then, if any, think about the justification of your ideas, which are called the opportunities. So there are now three concepts that I believe are key for a business woman and a businessman. And so I'm going to give you two. There's two that you know very well because I've drilled it for what, almost a month now, for 3 weeks, 3 weeks and a half. The first one is opportunities. If you don't believe in opportunities, I've missed my opportunity to turn your mind into something I think is important. But if you start believing it, it's great. And then another concept, which I have not spent as much time, but to me is a critical concept, is just noticeable difference, which is a consumer behavior concept that says to be successful, you need to bring value. So this is nothing new, but it's value from the perspective of a bet of a sort of a measurable value and a very controlled amount of value. Ooh, what was that? And a very controlled. Could you hear the phone as well? Oh, I'm sorry about this. I don't even know where my phone is. It's picking up on my computer. So, okay. So, um, so a very controllable amount of values, and this is the idea of just noticeable difference. The idea of just noticeable difference is someone who's very focused on what are the opportunities. How can we harness the opportunities by bringing value, which will turn into satisfaction, because value is what you see before you buy, versus satisfaction is what you perceive after you consume. And this just noticeable difference is the minimum amount that you need to have in order to be noticed as different and hopefully better. So I'm, I'm very excited to talk to you like this today because I think after what we've went through for the past 3 weeks, all of these things makes much more sense now. And they are not just intellectual concepts, they are concepts that you have to apply. And you have to apply it in everything, in art, in industry, in factory, in everywhere these will work. These are concepts that you want to apply even when you do consulting. And even when you're doing consulting for a musician and a singer, you will want to apply that. So you say, Alex Ritchie, where are you now? What have you done? What do you want to do next? What are the changes in the environment that you can take advantage of, meaning the opportunities? Then from these opportunities, what are the J and D that we want to apply, that we want you to go to follow? And there you go. But what's missing in this? It's missing the consumers. I'm not talking about the consumers so much. The consumers, yes, go ahead, Tamer.
I, I have a question. In the context of the just noticeable difference and um, looking at threats and uh, putting one brand or entity or Alex Ritchie in the context of all the singers
Yes,
or
exactly.
all the different companies or whatever. Um, I guess my question is how are we looking at what in the context like of where he's at now and where he wants to go, or where the top people are in the industry, and we're looking at. I'm trying
No,
to
okay, no, that's correct. So that's a very,
trying to
yeah,
frame it.
you're thinking right. The just noticeable difference is not in his context. So you can't, you cannot say, Here's where you are, and this is where you want to go. And the just noticeable difference between where you are and where you want to go will be X. Because you live in a market and you cannot think of your company or your brand, your organization as isolated. It's in comparison to the other brand in the market. So the just noticeable difference is what do you need to do within the market where you are in connection to who you are. So what happens is if you say, I want to be the best tennis player, you have to do it based on how well you play tennis and how much you want to become a good tennis player. If you want to become one of the best, you also have to do it based on who's number one, who's number two, who's number three, and beat these people at the level that they are. So if we say he wants to sell more music than Drake, obviously this is a huge goal. But then we're going to have to identify what is the just noticeable difference that someone would have to have in order to be better than Drake. What's the 3% better than Drake? Because 1% better than Drake, you won't be seen as better than Drake. I mean, this is the research tells you. This is not me saying that. 2%, only 40% of the people would notice it if you were 2% better than Drake. If you're 3% better than Drake, there's 65% of the people that will notice that you're better than Drake, which means that 3% better than Drake is the minimum amount that you need to be just noticeably different. So then that becomes the goal is study of Drake, his competitors, Drake's direction, Drake's next move, where Drake's we think is going to be in 2 years. What is the just noticeable difference you need to have in order to go along that, but even be perceived as better?
I see. Thank you for clearing that
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So it's not based on him as Alex Ritchie, it's him in his environment. So the just noticeable difference is therefore extremely connected to the word that you said, which is threat, the competitors being the biggest threat. So the just noticeable difference in your situation, you have to identify who are his current competitor, who are his future competitor, what's the destination, what's the direction for Alex Ritchie. And this is why, because we're starting with an artist which is at the bottom, not the bottom, but low, you have to think about steps, milestones. A year and a half this, then the next 2 years that, and then the next 3 years this. So it becomes a 5-year plan or something like this. So you have to have tier one, tier two, tier three, and you show what's the evolution within these tiers. And so this just noticeable difference is the the just noticeable difference you'll have in 5 years, but there's just noticeable difference you need to acquire in the next 6 months. So it's a destination. It's a direction that you have to show for the just noticeable difference. We can't turn Alex Ritchie in 2 months what we want him to become in 5 years. I think you all understand this because you're all over 21 years old, and you see it takes time for those artists to get to that destination. So there's a lot of work that needs to be accomplished. So what I was missing, therefore, opportunities we covered and we understand and know how important it is, just noticeable difference. You will more and more be comfortable with it. But then one that we haven't talked about is STP. Anyone knows what STP stands for? So it's okay if you don't know.
Stone Temple Pilots.
The what? Huh?
Stone Temple Pilots.
You don't.
STP.
No, yeah. STP is like It's like an oil company or something. No, I don't know. That's not so. STP.
Susan has it in the chat here.
STP. You hear motivational speaker, business guru. They talk about it every time they talk, but it's they don't use the name of the international theory. They use a different name. They come up with names. They call them personas, for example. So personas, everybody, they write book, they talk about personas. It's the trendy word for STP. STP, maybe it's too complicated because it's S, NT, NP. So they call it personas. This class, I think it was group 5. Group 5 invented a word that I've never heard before, and it was the equivalent of STP. They call them avatar. That was the first presentation of the class, the avatars. So they didn't know that. I think it's cool to call it avatar, but I've never heard it before, but it works. And maybe I should use it to sort of create a J and D, just noticeable difference for myself. When other people call it STP or personas, maybe I'm going to use that word avatars. That way I can have a J and D for the rest of the professors, my own little word. And that would be the contribution from Team 5. But anyway, so what are STP? They are acronym for 3 words: segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So that's what we're going to talk about today: segmentation, targeting, and positioning. But before that, let's do a quick little exercise. Which one of the following statements looks like a business opportunity? Since the air is polluted, and don't answer, let me call someone just to see. Since the air is polluted, we should be making pollution mask. Our pollution masks are rated the best protection against air pollution by the American Health Society. The air is increasingly getting polluted, according to the American Health Society. We could partner with a popular brand of filter to improve the quality of our pollution mask. Diversification could be implemented overseas where nature is clean of phosphate. So let me call
Follow me.
I want to call Alexandra Muse. What do you think?
I would say that I put D and it wasn't right, so maybe C.
So why is D not right?
That's a tactic.
It's too specific.
Yeah, you're right. It's a tactic. So you are very clear. Yes. It's what you're gonna do. First is what you're gonna do. So it could be a strategy or a tactic, and you are even more correct by saying it's a tactic. It's not even a strategy. Exactly, D. So it can't be D. What about E? Could it be E?
It's still something that you're planning to do, and
So
it's not really a fact.
Exactly. So it's still what you could do, but this time, is it a tactic or what? What is it? It's easy, that one, because it gives you the name of one of the 4 most famous strategy out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a strategy. So D is a tactic, E is a strategy. What about A? And I asked Megan Leggett, what is A? Is that an opportunity? What is this?
A is just one of the tactics.
Is it a tactic though?
Not quite, but it's not.
So what would it be? I give you a tip. It's a strategy. It's a textbook definition of a very simple strategy that you should discover in 5 seconds. with one eye looking at the screen.
It's an idea.
Yeah, but what's the name? It's let me tell you, it's an idea. It's what you want to do, and I give you a tip. It's not a tactic. It's a strategy. But which one? It starts with an N. After the N is a E. After the E is a W. After that, there's another word. It starts with a P. New product development. Yeah. You see, you say, oh, since there's air pollution, so that's an opportunity. We're going to be making new masks for air pollution. So that's, you use an opportunity to make a decision of what you're going to do, which either can be a tactic or it can be a strategy. And here it's a strategy because it's new product development. Then the next one, B. Our pollution masks are rated the best protection against air pollution by the American Society. Let's ask this to Shania. Can you see that, Shania? I have the feeling you are in a car or something. Maybe that's challenge for her. What is that one? Our pollution masks are rated the best protection against. Is it an opportunity? What is it? Oh, we can't hear her. You have, yeah.
Okay, sorry. No, I think it's just like I can't even remember the word, but just like a fact about just like I don't know, it's just like a statement, just like a.
Yes, it is. You're almost there. It's a fact. Is it internal or external?
Um. I don't know. I think it's external.
Well, when usually you say our pollution mask, you know, that's like the little tip. Our.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's an internal strength. I guess I was thinking it was external because it was being compared to like other masks and the rating was from an external company,
No.
but that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a
That it's an
strength.
internal.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
internal. It's a strength. That's what you say. So it's a factor. It's a statement that is a strength. What to make this perfect? All you have to do is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Internal, external. Like that's talking about the SWOT.
Yeah, I mean
Like
that's
the strengths,
so,
weaknesses.
yeah, strength.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, here,
Okay.
here, what everyone needs to see is it's not rocket science. Everything can be stated as SWOT, strategy, tactics. So when you are in business and you're an executive, you cannot be confused by those things. This is like I don't know, a musician, the notes. Is it do? Is it re? Is it me? You know, and this profession is a professional musician and says, I don't know if it's do, re, or whatever it is. I'm confused. That would be a little scary, I think. But so when you're in business and you see statements, you have to put them into a drawer and you have to look at them. Sometimes they're mixed, you know, where there is like, since the air is polluted, we should be making masks. So there is a bit of opportunity, there is strategy, and the name is exactly this. So the answer to this is C. The opportunity is C. What's an opportunity? It's a fact. It's a fact, simply a fact, and that the company can take advantage of. So here we could take the advantage that the American Health Society is saying that there is an increase of the air pollution. So for this opportunity to be perfect, it's missing two things. One is it's missing by what's the increase? You know, the air is increasingly getting polluted by 0.0005%. Is there really something that you got to do? I don't know. Maybe it's too small of an opportunity. So we need to know what's the size of the opportunity. And then the next thing is we don't have the date, because we want to know if this was recent, if it was old, How recent was it? Was it a month ago, a week ago? So that's the two things that we're missing. So when you write an opportunity, you need to say who is saying, what are they saying, what's the size of this, and when is the date. If you have the date, the size, who, and all, then you have an opportunity. So it needs to be complete. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Do companies use B to market themselves?
Yes. Yes.
I figured.
Yeah, yeah.
So how would that be? Because how do we categorize that? We called it.
So, no, B is a strength.
Strength. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. B is simply a strength. That's what I
Oh,
was asking Shania. And so she was not sure if it was internal, external, and then she said internal, it's like a factor, sort of a strength. Yes, it's a strength. And here again, all you will be missing here is the American Health Society, and then you will have a date.
right, because the date matters. Because if it's old, then it's
Yeah,
not relevant.
yeah, that's right. Because then, because hi. So the problem here is that you have to think about the size of the JND. That's really what matters. So if this was a day old, the size of the JND is huge. #1 mask in the United States, that's a big JND. If it's #1 mask 10 years ago, it's insignificant JND. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
you know, I won a best brand of cognac 10 years ago. And it's a truth. #1 rated cognac brand in the world 10 years ago. It's good, but it had a much bigger effect 10 years ago than it has today. You know, so what? What's new? Oh, I won 10 years ago. What's new, right? So, I mean, when you're a musician, it's the same thing. You won the Grammys 10 years ago, 20 years ago, fine. But if you're the person that just won, you know, this month, has a bigger impact. So JND fades away. And that's the thing with JND is you have to constantly have JND. And what's interesting with JND that I want to add, because I don't want you to think that JND is the more you do, the more JND. Because if you do too much JND, it doesn't work. Something is too different, even if it's better. No, that's one thing that's really hard to bear as consumers, is when you give them over value, over JND. Most of them don't take it. Most of them don't take it. Most of them think that if it's too good to be true, therefore I will pass. Right? So you have to be very careful. Too much good is gets you in trouble. Another thing that if people buy, let's say you do something is 2 times better than anybody else, it won't work. And if it works, it creates another problem, which is that you have set a scale, which is that they will expect from you to be 2 times better again every time that you offer a product. So you have to control the J&D for succeeding in the market, but also control the G&D for what you have to do yourself the next time. Okay. So thank you for your question. Any other comments or questions? So obviously, we're going to have lots of comments and questions, even just today with the team I'm going to be meeting, because that's all we're going to be talking about, I suppose. The opportunities, and then what they want to do with it strategically, tactically. Therefore, what are the ideas? Translate the ideas in tactics and strategies, and then discuss what is the value, the J&D that they think this is going to bring to the market. What do they expect the response, people's response to be? And again and again and again. So just prepare yourself. And when you present, to a client, that's essentially the argument that you're making. We got it. We know the JND. We know all this. And when you try to sell a business to an investor or get partners to join in your business, that's also what you're going to talk about. That's the center of the discussion. This is very, very, very important. Hopefully, that for you to start understanding this, or to start to see how important it is, makes me so excited, because you are starting to see that business is not just winging things and being lucky. Business is really this control of these factors in order to create the right arguments. So segmentation, targeting, and positioning, I go back to this. To me, these are the three pillars of doing good marketing, and STP is one of them. STP is the outcome, the fruit of what you studied before. So it's about creating an understanding of who are my customers. So a good business is a business that knows their customers. And to know your customers, you do what's called segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Segmentation is the first stage, and segmentation is about dividing. So what's the definition of segmentation? What's the one word? Because if I tell you segmentation, you don't know. It's not, maybe not so clear. Let's do segmentation. It's like, I think it's an English word. I think I understand what it is. It's like you separate or whatever. Yes, exactly. So why did the marketer use the word segmentation? Because they wanted to create their own jargon. Why did they want to create their own jargon? Because marketing, when it started, was not very scientific. So you were a professor of marketing 70 years ago. You were the one making the least money. You're the poor professor. So how do you make a poor professor rich? And if you're a marketing professor, you're smart. You make words. You create words that your group understand, because then you teach it to them. You create a J&D. So smart marketing professors are smart. They create JNDs. So they created JNDs just in their world. And so they should have called it market division. You know, it's dividing. So you take the market and you divide them. So dividing is not that difficult. What's difficult is you have to divide people in what we call homogeneous groups. So it's division of people who are the same or similar people. Okay. The next stage is you identify and select. So targeting is looking at these groups of people that you've divided, and then is to select the one that makes the most sense as the greatest opportunity for the company to take advantage of. So how can you divide people? You go back to consumer behavior, and you can divide people by where do they live, how old they are they married, do they have a low, medium, high income? And then psychographics. So what's their social class? What are the hobbies that they have? What are the different traits of personalities? And then why do they buy? The benefits. So they buy for themselves, they buy for somebody else, they repeat buying, okay? So segmenting is about dividing. How do you divide? You divide people on all of these characteristics, all right? The last one is positioning. So yes. So who knows what is positioning?
Like where you stand in the market.
What does that mean? Where you stand?
How relevant you are, how much of a market share, how relevant your product is, how known it is.
No, I mean, your clothes.
I'm not really being specific enough. I'm like touching around all these different
Around, yeah. You know, it's like this battle game when you play and there's like a wall, and the person says,
It's where your brand occupies
yes,
the consumer, or
yes,
where the consumer occupies the brand in the
yeah,
market. That's kind of like, how I would
yeah. That's closer.
find it.
You're one step above. Yeah.
Does it have to do with like also like your like where you come in like as far as like penetration goes? Right,
No, no,
like
no, no. I actually
No.
think it's like Starbucks coffee and Pete's coffee. It's the distinguish, it's the it's how you distinguish the brands. One is Starbucks, one is
Yes. Okay.
Pete.
So
Okay,
it's very, very close. You're like
okay,
99%. I would say that distinguish is very good, but a stronger word than that is the meaning of your brand,
okay, okay.
right? So it's the meaning of your brand, and the meaning of your brand, by definition, needs to be J&D.
So
So therefore,
the
it has to be distinguished
Well, I'm a yellow fish, man. I don't drink coffee anyway.
the meaning of the brand to whom?
to the consumers.
To the consumer, bro. The
Okay.
consumer.
Yeah. So market positioning. In fact, so is marketing rocket science? All the things I'm going to teach you this class, nothing is rocket science. Everything is fairly easy, a little bit more difficult. But there's one thing that is more closer to rocket science. So the most difficult thing is market positioning. So that's the only thing that takes a lot of more experience. It's more complicated. It's developing the meaning of a brand. So in the mind of the consumers and in relation to the other brands in your market.
So, Professor, would that
Yep.
fall under, because I'm thinking right now, it's would that fall under like brand awareness? If you say the meaning of the brand, I'm still
Yeah.
trying to.
So what happened is um, positioning is an issue which has to do with the brand,
Right.
but it doesn't have to do just with the brand. So if you want, it's like social media. Does it have to do with marketing? Yes, because social media goes into a box called digital marketing, which goes into a bigger drawer that is called communication,
Right.
which goes into a bigger drawer which is called P for promotion, and then that goes is one of the P for marketing. So market positioning, under that there's brand, but you also have price. Your price has an impact on your positioning. Are you, you know, are you more expensive or less expensive than a Rolex watch? The price also has an impact on how people see your company, your brand. But market positioning has to do with communication. It has to do with the components of your products. It has to do with where do you sell the product. It has to do with your brand. It has to do with your price. You see, so the market positioning is not just the brand. It's more than the brand, but the brand is a big chunk of it. So now I go back. Brand awareness is directly a component of brand. So if you see as brand awareness affect the brand and the brand affect market positioning. So if I was to say, is market positioning has to do with brand awareness? Yes, but indirectly.
Indirect.
Indirectly. So you got it, yeah, excellent. So indirectly. So I'm just trying to be as accurate as possible, so that way you see the thing. So market positioning is where do you want what share. So the number one book on positioning calls it the share of mind. The share of mind. People have a mind, and inside their mind you want to get a share, and that share is where you belong, your positioning, the extra meaning. So obviously I'm going to go in detail on this. I'm not doing the entire class on this one slide, so go in the details. And just again, market positioning is the most complicated of all. But actually, when I was a student and I was a major of nothing, I had no majors. I was just starting the university. When I took this class and it started talking about market positioning, that's what turned me on. And then I did 2 bachelor, 1 graduate diploma, 1 MBA, 1 PhD, became a professor. because of positioning. That's that's what's got me fired, that concept, because I thought that was the most interesting. Is people don't buy products. To me, people buy positioning, and because they buy positioning, they buy brands. Because they buy brands, they buy a channel of distribution. They buy prices. Prices. Prices makes them good. They buy the influence of a YouTuber telling them what to do. Anyway, so all of this got is what got me fired. So
Fired up,
segmentation,
fired up, fired up. You said fired.
yeah,
Fired up.
fired up. Oh yeah, he got me fired. Yeah, he got me fired up. Yeah, I never got fired yet. So segmentation is dividing, targeting is selecting the segments, and then positioning is therefore giving, identifying the meaning that the targets want to hear. So if the targets wants, um, affordability, they don't care. They don't want the best product. They just want it to be affordable. What you do is you're going to direct them towards your brand, telling them this is affordable. If they want affordable, this is what they should have. And so you can only define positioning after, or you should only define positioning after you've identified your target. Once you know who's your customer, then you should define what is the meaning of your brand. However, what happens in the real life? Do you think companies, brands define themselves after they've identified their target?
No.
No. And that's one of the biggest mistake that is done by over 95% of the companies is they define their positioning first. The most common way to do business is PST. PST is the most common, but PST is the worst way. PST is, I mean, I think can you do PST? You can do PST, but only do PST if you're very, very, very rich. If you're
So
very, very rich, you can do what you want. You use
TST is
When
the
you're talking about PST, do you just mean like the reverse, like them doing positioning first?
first, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
PST is when you do the reverse of what you're supposed to do. I would
Mhm.
say PST is what 95, maybe 98% of the company do, which means that they start defining who they are. When I mean the number of what the company do, if you're a big company, if you're Coca-Cola, you don't do PST. If you're Coca-Cola, you do STP. If you're Delta Airlines, you do STP. If you're Toyota, you do STP. But what happens is that the number of companies, if you take, there's millions of companies, and most of these companies are not Toyota. Those big companies, a minority. Most companies are small companies, and most of the company, in terms of the number of companies, do PST. Almost all the entrepreneurs, so that's what you're going to be in the next class. An entrepreneur that just starts a company do PST. Why do company do PST, do you think? Most company. And why do startup most of the time do PST? And I tell you this is a question I can't wait to hear what you're going to say, because it's sort of the conclusion of everything we talked since the first minutes in this class. Why?
Professor?
Yes.
So do you think then people use more of PST when they're providing a service over a product?
No, because if you're providing a service, it's the same. It's the same. You say, oh, I'm going to be a hairdresser and I'm going to cut people hair. All right, everybody's the same. Just come. I close my eyes and I go wink, 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 wink. I with my scissor. No, is you don't cut the hair the same way depending on who. Is it a man, a woman, a kid, an adult, an old lady, the daughter of Bill Gates versus the the farmer lady? It's not the same. If you do services the same, I mean, you take a plane, there's different price in the plane because there's different people. There's the first class, the business class, the private jets, right? So services is just exactly the same. than a good. So why is it most common that it's PST? Like if, and even though I tell you this, at least half of the class, even after you took this class, when we start the next class, you're going to do PST, even though I told you the entire time not to do PST. Why is this?
Because they're trying to sell their brand.
Yes, they're trying to sell. So first, why do companies are involved in selling before creating or satisfying a customer?
Oh, they're thinking about the ideas instead of the opportunities.
I would say the
Exactly.
value. No.
No, most
No?
businesses, you talk to you talk to anyone who's starting a business and you say,
Uh-huh.
yo, you're starting a business, what you gonna do? Oh, I had this great idea.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have this hammer that fell on my feet. And then my feet was hurting so bad. So I thought of making this shoe with a reinforced shoes. And then you look at this person and say, like a Doc Martens. And then you go, Doc Martens? Oh yeah, that's right. They do that. So you're gonna do. Isn't it Doc Martens like 80 years old or something? They've been doing that for 80 years.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So maybe it's not a good idea, right? I don't know. Could be a good idea, but I would not worry about the idea. Why don't you worry about the opportunity? And then they go, the what? The opportunity. What's an opportunity? Well, opportunity, it's a fact. It's in the environment. It's like you look for facts. You look for people, and you see what people want, what people have. What are their problems? Do you see people with a problem? Well, I say that there's some people they want to protect their feet, but they tell me that they don't like the Doc Martens because they want the Doc Martens to have I don't know. They want people. They want to see their toes. Ah, so it's like a see-through Doc Martens. Is there such a thing as a see-through Doc Martens? That's an idea. Let's see. Ask another person. Do you want to see through Doc Martens? Yes. Do you want to see through Doc Martens? Yes. Millions of people. I want to see through Doc Martens. Ooh, that million people saying that's an opportunity. So then you do STP. But the people that do PST are the 98%, and they do PST because they think of an idea and then they make a product, then they go create a website, then they look to sell, and then they go and selling, and then you come back and you say, how is your business? Oh, it's terrible. I've been doing this for 5 years. Oh, you mean you've been doing PST for 5 years? What do you mean? Well, positioning, what you like, this is my brand, take it or leave it. If you're a loser if you don't like my brand, then why don't they like my brand? Why don't they like my ID? Let's get some better salespeople. People that lie. And then it's like, it's hard to sell. I have to lie so much. Yeah, but why are you forcing people to buy your ID? Make sure, did you identify that this was a problem that they had before you started? Or was it what was the problem you were solving? The problem I was solving, I don't know. I thought this was a cool idea. I'm cool. I have cool ideas. Yeah, but that's not how you run a business. The business is not about you. The business is about satisfying someone's need. What was their need? What was their problem? What was their exact problem? And were you the only one satisfying this problem? Did you see if anyone else satisfy the problem? Did you see if you had a just noticeable difference compared to your competitors to satisfy this problem? Wait. What's just noticeable difference? What's opportunity? What's PST? What is STP? I'm confused. Well, buy some books and start studying. Go get yourself a degree, right? That's can you be a successful business person without going to the university? Yes, but you cannot be a successful person by not applying those very basic, simple rules. You're not satisfying yourself. You're satisfying a customer. What is it that you're satisfying? Then you find what it is, and then you position on telling them that you got what they want. After you know that you've made it for them, then it's easy to make it right, because you know what they want. You show up and you tell them, I've got what you want. Look, I know who you are. You and I are buddies. Take it. I don't want to take advantage of you. I'm here for you. I'm here to satisfy you and make sure that your life is good. Right? So,
I have a question.
yes.
So, do companies ever try to do TSP, or does the STPS makes you find the target that you're looking for?
All right. So that's a really good question. Thank you, Damer. It's fantastic. Because then here's the thing. Can you do TSP? Can you do TPS? Can you do PST? Can you do PTS? There's a certain number of combination that you can do that are not recommended. The only recommended way is STP. The, the most common way is PST. But there's some ways that that you can't do. Like you can never start with T. Why can you never start with T?
Because you don't know who you're trying to target, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Because look, what's the first one? Market segmentation equals divide, and two, market targeting equals cluster, group. So if you say, we're going to divide, how can I divide this class? I could divide this class by age, you know, everybody was 23, everybody was 24, everybody was 25. By gender, male and female. By height, tall, shorter, medium. By color of hair. By what else can I do? By GPA. I can divide people. There's so many ways. By longer hair, shorter hair. By the instruments that you play, right? So dividing people, there's thousands of combination. People wearing a hat, not wearing a hat. People wearing sunglasses and not glasses. You could divide people in thousands of ways. The problem is anyone is able to divide people. The only thing is the characteristic that you're using to divide people meaningful for how you're dividing them. Let's say I want to teach the next Maya class, and I decide to divide them by gender. Well, I guess that's an idea. Are men and women a little different for learning marketing? Not really, so it's irrelevant. By height, height is certainly irrelevant. By GPA, GPA could be. There could be a difference in teaching people that get it faster and people that get it slower. Maybe that's possible. So when you divide people, you don't randomly choose a characteristics. So that's the first thing that you need to learn about STP. There's no random rule. It has to be for what is. So it was in the text of the exam. It was salient. I don't know if you remember seeing that word. Maybe you thought, what the heck is that? SALIENT. Salient consumer characteristics. So salient is like an intellectual word, but it's the word that is used a lot in marketing, because when we choose characteristics to divide people, we have to choose salient characteristics. So salient means precise, meaningful, accurate, pertinent. You could put it in the thesaurus and you will find all of this. It's characteristics that generate a difference versus characteristics that are not that different. Targeting is picking these characteristics and grouping them. So there's no way you can pick characteristics and group them if you haven't had the characteristics being already separated. So you have to separate them. Okay. So I couldn't teach the class based on the groups that have been created and select the groups if the groups have not been selected. So targeting is about these groups that have been grouped and pre-selected. I mean, it's like if you're looking at a cooking recipe. A cooking recipe is they tell you you need meat, onions, butter, so that's segmentation. Is you talk about the different family of products. So that's the different characteristics. And then targeting is what they tell you how long you're going to put it, how long you're going to put the dish inside the oven. So you can't talk about how long you're going to put the dish inside the oven if you don't know what are the elements to make that dish. And then you talk about the elements. So it's like the carriage in front of the horse. You could not do that. So you divide and then you make grouping. So it's always ST. So it can only be PST or STP. There's only two combinations.
Okay, I see.
So I gave you a long explanation, Tamar, which was hopefully because that was the question you were asking, and I hope that's what it was. And it's important. So if you go on YouTube and you look for a business motivational speaker, you will see that 50% of the time, if not more, they talk about STP, but because they're talking to a general audience, not a university audience. They don't say it this way. They take shortcuts. And in the shortcuts, that's why they call this, we're going to explain to you how you do business. First, you need to know your customer. And to know your customers, the concept is called personas. And the concept of personas is that you have to really have a clear definition of the multi-characteristics of your clients. You cannot be everything to everyone, so you have to identify a few clients that you want to focus on. And these few clients are going to be called, in this class, you call it the first presentation, the avatar. This typology of customer is who we're going to focus on. What do they want? What is the problem we're solving? What is the benefits that they're gaining? What is the value that they are looking for? What are the expected performance that they want to have? Our personas. So it is very, very important. I'm 100% sure that in the next year, you will be working in a situation where you're going to have to work on personas or to listen about someone talking about personas. But the more scientific way to look at this is called segmentation, targeting, and positioning. It's a bit more complex and simplified. Yes.
Thank you for clearing that up.
You're welcome.
Very valuable.
I had a question about, again, the PST concept, but like, if we're looking at like at a music industry lens, wouldn't it be that we're sort of, doing the art of storytelling? So shouldn't we like describe the ethos, maybe, surrounding an artist or being the artist management company before deciding to like, sort of segment?
Yes. So thank you. That's the next thing that I have to disclose, which may confuse a number of people, but not Brian. That was Brian, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So Brian, your question is also outstanding because you're absolutely right. So now here's what I want to disclose. There's not a book that the best business book in the world and the best businessman in the world, if you did everything that this book told you, or if you did everything that this woman or best man told you, it's not 100% sure that you will become the next businessman. Why is that? Because unfortunately, business is not a perfect science like mathematics, which means the rule of it's more than a rule of thumb, is the law is that STP is how you should do it. But I would say 98% of the time, there is situation where PST is recommended. So now it's like, oh, that's what I don't like about this. There's too many if. So I was telling you that when I was a student, I was fired up by this concept of market positioning. And in fact, I was so fired up on it. And I don't know if you remember, but I work in the luxury industry, luxury marketing. So in the early 90s, I started writing about the fact that luxury did not follow all the time the paradigm, the concept, the paradigm of STP. And in fact, true luxury, high-end luxury, right? Expensive luxury. So the expensive luxury is called bespoke, BESPOKE, bespoke luxury. When they make things for like tailored to one person, it's worth millions of dollars or whatever. It's usually made by an artist, you know, like haute couture dress. So it's like a dress. You look at the dress and you go, who wears that? Nobody can wear that. How much is this dress? $600,000. What? Are you kidding me? $600,000 dress. That dress was not made by Dior as a STP. It was made as a PST. So that's 30 years ago. I went like, wow, I think I found something. I'm going to write about that high-end luxury is not STP, it's PST, because it's actually the creator. He makes a product, and then people follow because they follow the artistry of the creator. And there's no STP. STP is for the rest, for the masses. And when I wrote that, everybody's like, "Wow, this guy, Frank Wigner, is amazing," and all that. I was just the first one to think about this. So now going back to Brian's question, it is true. And that's why it's kind of a very interesting subject, is now in the music industry. And this is more for you, because you have way more knowledge on that particular aspect I'm going to talk about. The industry of music, how can you become a superstar? How can you become really famous? Should you be a PST, or should you be a STP? What should you do? How do you really? Let's look at the 100 top famous singer. You know, what did they go up? How did they go? The most famous songs, were they PST, were they STP? Like in the world we live today, are we in a STP world of music or a PST world of music? I don't even know if anyone has wrote about this. That would be a really cool paper. It is even possible that nobody has ever worked on this, talking about the music industry being STP or PST. It's fascinating. You could probably find your just noticeable difference by talking about this. So what do you think? How is the music world?
It's a really interesting. I have to think about it. I can't just answer.
Yeah, isn't it? It's deep, but it's.
I think it's interesting to or I wanted to comment, like placing an artist in the positioning part first in an objective manner will allow them to see like what artists are they up against in competition, because it's hard to take yourself like objectively and like out of that. So I think maybe like like the positioning part may like influence that. And I don't know if it would be beneficial to the artist, like with Alex, just like, hey, this is like your competition or your competitors, and if we position you in this way, so and so will happen. But that's just my opinion. I don't know.
I agree with that as well.
So you think it's more PST?
Yeah, because like the first thing you ask an artist is like, who are your inspirations and who do you sound like? And then you go from there. Like that's the first question you ask artists typically before you even listen to their music and stuff.
Yeah, I think what big label do, the the tenors of the music industry, I think what they do, and I mean, the truth is that I was able to ask one of them what they do and what they told me is yes, they look for artists with personality and they constantly search for them, but they're also constantly doing research, market research to see the trends. And if they see a trend that is coming, then they go through their list of potential young artists that would have the positioning that would fit with the trends that they saw. And then they support this. Or they take some artists that are sort of workable and then they work them in an STP format and then they become very successful. And very successful sometimes is they do one album, two album, and it lasts for 4 years. And I mean, how many bands have been successful for 2 years and everybody had their name on their lips? I just think of one right now, the Black Eyed Peas or whatever.
The
There
Black
was
Eyed Peas, yeah. Professor, though, but with the STP, when you say that, okay, as far as the music industry is concerned, if we start off with segmentation, we in the music industry we got genres, we got rap, we got pop, we got reggaeton. So isn't that kind of like the separation part or the segmentation part already? Because an artist who is pop can't wouldn't necessarily compete with an artist who is in the classical world.
Oh
You
yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
of course, of course.
And then and then the target when you get into the target market, I mean, classic. You target your classic market. You target your pop guys. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
but
I mean that's just kind of basic the way I see it.
well, but what happens is you you know uh, it's like if you sell luxury goods, you sell the perfume, you sell the jewelry, you sell the car, you sell the clothing. So these are like the genre. And so of course that you have a predetermined market. So it's market segmentation in the reggaeton.
There you
So
go.
it's not,
Yes.
yeah, so it's not market segmentation. I mean, you don't start from zero. In fact, when you go talk to the label in Europe and you talk to Universal, Universal even has a French songs department. And under that, you're going to have classical, reggaeton, hip hop, rock and roll. And then you'll have the English with the same thing. And then the Italian with the same thing. And then the German with the same thing. And then the Spanish with the same thing. So when these people talk about market segmentation, is within the specific market that they're looking at. So when you do a STP for Alex Ritchie, that's why you have to do you have to do mariachi, you have to do Latin music, you'll have to do hip hop and Latin hip hop, and you'll have to do reggaeton. Then you're gonna have to look at reggaeton from the Puerto Rican, I guess, because that's sort of from what I understand, the traditional. But then you're gonna have to look at the reggaeton from the other side. So there is a review of these different markets until you find, and that's why you don't do STP to, well, you do, when you do, where do you look for opportunities? Right? Where do you look? In the micro and macro environment. So it's the same answer. Where do you look for? And what are the factors that have the most importance? The customers. And when you look at the customers, you do an STP. But if you're looking at an opportunity that comes from technology, has nothing to do with STP. So your opportunities mostly come from your customers. And the opportunity from the customers is to look at a group of people, a new group of people that was not well taken advantage of. So it's like resegmenting the market and looking again at who's consuming right now and who is consuming something by default, when in fact within that group they would want something slightly different but have not been offered yet, these slight differences. So then you look for the artist that would have maybe a positioning, a current positioning that would be closer to where the positioning needs to be. So when people ask me, okay, so we're confused, it's PST or it's STP. You know what I say to people? And that's not in the books. It's in no books. It's not in our book. It's not on Google. I said, you know, this STP and PST, it's okay, but I have a better way to look at it. My rule is PSTP. So what I'm teaching you right now, it's market. Like this second so far, I teach you STP like you would learn in Gabon, in India, in Iceland, in Canada, or in America.
Professor, did
But
you just say
STP.
PSTP?
Yeah, my Frank Vigneron way is PSTP, which means that I always think that the brand or the owner or the artist has a positioning. They have a positioning. Good or bad, they have a positioning. So I analyze the positioning, but I don't analyze the positioning to force feed the positioning, which is PST. PST is force feed. PST is, this is what the Alex Ritchie is. Let's fish for a segment in order to identify a target and to go, we saved the day. We found the target. Woo, shoo. There is one for Alex Ritchie. It's not really big, but it exists. And then you make it happen. To me, that's a selling proposition. And I think it's mostly likely to fail because selling is harder than doing the homework before. So then I go, okay, so let's do STP because that's what all the world said to do. But the problem is when you do STP, sometimes you have to make compromises that you're not willing to do because it's not new. So I think there's at least two people that understand what I'm talking, maybe three. So therefore, my way is to do PSTP, which means that the first P is the existing, and we're gonna, in consideration to the existing meaning of the client, Alex Ritchie, meaning of the brand, Porsche or Sony or whatever it is, we're gonna work with what they have, but knowing that this could be some significant mutation, like the virus mutation, some significant mutation of that virus in the process in order to make it better for the next diffusion. So we look what the material is, then we look what the market wants, and then we adjust. That's my way. So if you search on Google PSTP, you won't find it. But to me, STP, PST, it's PSTP because there's a revision, but you work from something. So my recommendation is do PSTP for Alex Ritchie, but knowing that there could be some changes. What changes? I don't know, and that's why you need to really understand the. I mean, it's like saying, "Oh, Alex Ritchie, you're going to sing everything in English." I don't think that's a good idea. I think there should be some Latino because that's his P. You can't change that. But there's going to be some changes, and that's what we're going to find because we're going to identify the opportunity in order to generate the direction for the changes and identify the particular target, the specific target that will state what needs to be changed in terms of your positioning in order to do the last P. The last P is the right P. The first P is just a basis. Does that make sense to you?
So the first P is subject to change based on
Subject
how
to change, exactly.
how the STP goes.
Exactly. That's it. Thank you for that summary. Yeah, the first P is subject to change based on the course of the ST. And that's what's fascinating because you see what you're going to come up as the P. Then you tell us what their opportunities are on the S and the T. And then there's the final P, and that's when you make your argument. And then we look at that and go, whoa, no. That's too much. You lost the essence of the artist in the process. Okay. And now, so what exists? I think if you're selling toothpaste, toothbrushes, tires, mass-produced goods, you do STP. STP is the sure value. Give them what they want. And it's like, and then you know what's, so then it's PSTP, but the first P, you know what it is profit. Profit, segmentation, targeting, positioning. So it's like, it makes money, I'll do it. That's really the STP. That's why STP is sort of a safe thing. PST could also exist. You are like a famous designer. You're a famous painter. You don't care what people think. You're a famous poet. You don't write the poetry for final consumers. You're just in your art. And in a way, this is really remarkable. I mean, to me, because I'm so into marketing is right, and marketing is the power and all this, and STP is the power. Then when someone says, I do PST and I see that they should be doing PST, I find it remarkable because people have to follow the brand, blind-eyed, close eye, follow the brand. But not too many people can do that. Apple cannot do PST. Apple doesn't do PST. Apple maybe does PSTP, and I guess they were doing PSTP, and it's a PSTP that becomes more of a STP. And and sometimes that's how you can lose yourself, because if they're starting to become too much STP and not PSTP, the meaning of the brand may be diluted, because we can see it's replicable by other company and there's nothing special anymore. They're not leading anymore. So leadership requires some PST, because leadership is about, they don't know what they want, but we're going to help them realize that that's what they need. And we're doing it because we are the precursor. We are the pioneer.
So like the Beatles is PST, but
yeah,
all the cover bands that play their music now is STP.
Yes, all the cover bands. And I mean, the Spice Girls, that's not PST. The Beatles, that's PST. I would bet you that if we had the time and we took 1,000 of music success, you will find that it's mostly STP. Because, probably you could say, okay, wait, it depends. The 60s less, but I think the music world will become more STP than PST, because it's big money. Big money means investment, and investment means it becomes a product. And they're looking at ratios and tables and data. And as they're looking more and more and more at that, PST it's like a circus without a net, and people are being acrobatic without a net. If you go to the circus, the next time you go to the circus, you will see there is a net. And so we live in a world, there's too many lawyers, there's too much liability, and PST is a no in a growing world of liability. So I hope I fired up a bunch of, I hope we have this tradition on Saturday to be fired up. And I hope I fired up some of you as well with this sort of intellectual concept, but it's very important because it's very realistic. And it's not a lip service because it's a chapter in a textbook. I go back to this slide. Is these 3 slides, it's not all you need, but if you understand these 3 slides, you're going to be doing some damage in business, because there are 3 pillars to understand what drives growth. What drives growth is the customers, and how you divide customers, and how novel you look at them and understand the differences between the customers. From that, oftentimes you can generate opportunities, but opportunities are not just the customers. The opportunities come from all the factors in the environment. So there's more, customer is one of them, but there's a 20 of them. Then when you do this, you got to do it at a minimum amount of betterment, improvement, and that's the concept of J&D, which is not in a vacuum, it also looks at what are the other brands, competitor, doing in the environment, and also who are they serving, okay? Any questions?
I have a question. Sorry if I'm taking up and
No, but I mean, first let me thank everyone who's interacting, because it's not so slowing us down. It's giving me feedback to see what you understand and how I can go into more details, and it makes it much better for me. So thank you. Don't apologize.
all right. Thank you. Well, so for when you're looking at customers and you're looking for you're looking at what they need, and you're looking at all the different aspects of the environment and analyzing for um, opportunities, what are the wouldn't you say the best quality opportunities are found in the customer because that's who you're serving? Or I don't know.
Yeah, exactly, because that's who you're serving. It's number one. The customer is the boss. If there is a boss that think they should be the first one served, they are wrong. The first person to be served, it's the customer. The second person to be served is the employee. The third person to be served is the boss. That's just the way. You know, it's like if you go to the war and there's food, you know, serve the front lines people, serve the second line people, and then serve food for me. I'm in the back. It's the general, you're in the back. Make sure the front is the one. The front is the one that needs the most help. And so that's this mentality. It's a healthy business mentality to think the customer is the center. And then you can look at all the businesses. We're talking about Starbucks. Starbucks was successful not because of the, well, Starbucks was successful because of the coffee at the beginning. They started in Seattle. They had one store. That one store was buying the best coffee grain and had the best coffee machine. There's a brand of coffee machine, it's called La Mazurka. It's from Italy, made in Italy. And it's sort of like the Rolls Royce, the Ferrari, the Bentley of the coffee machine. It's 5 times more expensive than the average. Their first store had this machine. Were they making the best coffee? Yeah, they had the best machine, the best coffee. You make this. Then they opened a second store. They still have that. Then they had a third store. They still have that. I think once they got 15 store, the 16th store bought a Toyota coffee machine. And then now they have a Hyundai, right? So that's what they have in there. So the product became less and less the quality. The quality came from the people being part of the movement. And so they invested in their customers because they got the J&D. Did the quality go down? Yeah. But the quality went down in the eye of the expert, not in the eye of the masses. In the eye of the masses, they discovered a better coffee, so the quality went up. So did they alienate the first customers that they had at the beginning? Yeah, but it didn't matter. They lost 1,000, they gained 1,000,000. So the million, the J&D was right. For the 1,000 first customer, the J&D was wrong. But they were growing. The target had changed. And therefore the target became much bigger, wider, and the profit went up. And then they didn't focus as much on the product, they focused on the customer. But so is it okay to have a business idea which is, I'm going to make the best coffee, I'm going to buy the Marzuka coffee, and I'm going to grind it this way, and I'm going to make the best coffee? Yes. Is that going to make you successful? No. But it did for Starbucks. Yeah, but that's not the norm. The norm is best product don't win. Best music doesn't win. Best marketing most likely win. So, and what's the best marketing is give the customer what the customer wants. Satisfy your customer. Yeah, I get it. But that's not that easy. Why? Define who is your customer. Is that easy? No, very hard. So people fail not having the best product. anyone can be smart enough to know what's the best product. We all know, use the best ingredients and all that. You can make the best product. But the best business is the right product for the best customer. And that's what's difficult. Okay. Any other questions? So if we pursue and we say, okay, so how do we know who's our best customer? Well, our customers are broken down, and we're going to start with segmentation, dividing them. And how do you divide them? You divide them based on these characteristics and these characteristics. Which one of these characteristics is the one that explains the most? That was in the quiz.
Cultural, right?
Culture.
Cultural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the culture. Your culture explains. Thank you for the answer. Your culture explains most of who you are, right? So then if you were to segment and use culture, is that good? Yes. Does your competitor also use culture? Of course.
Good, yes.
Exactly. So then you go, oh, bummer. They use culture. They figure it out. So do you think you're going to get J&D from culture? Maybe yes. Probably not. Unless your competitors are bad at segmentation and they just do a bad job in segmenting using culture. Then you go, yes, but did they think about subculture? Maybe they didn't. Did they think about social class? Maybe they didn't, right? So then that's what you do is your definition of the customer is what makes a difference. I remember this company. This is a true story. It's a nightclub company in Netherlands, the Netherlands, Holland, and they had a dozen of nightclubs, and they were seeing their profit go down. People didn't go as much to the nightclub, and people didn't spend as much to the nightclub. And then the owner said, so what do I do? Do I start closing nightclubs? And everybody said, yeah, there's less people going to the nightclubs. It's just a fact. And then he says, no. Who are these people? Young people. In Netherlands, you go younger to the nightclub. 18 to 30 years old, drastic decrease. And then he says, whoa, can we do a segmentation here? What about the old people? Old people don't go to the nightclub. And then he says, wait a minute, don't old people like to dance? Yeah, but they like to dance. We open in Europe is very different. We open the nightclub at 11 p.m. and it's 11 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then he says, wait, I don't want to close business. When do they want to go? Oh, they want to go from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Fine. Let's do 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. for the older people. And then you know what they discovered? The old people, when they went to the nightclub, because they started going, because they wanted to dance, because the trend is that older people stay healthier older. Older people stay sexually active older, and they want to date. And they don't do too much the Tinder and all of that. So they still want to go to the nightclub. And so they go to the nightclub. And when they go to the nightclub, they don't smuggle booze inside. The old people don't hide the booze and go in the nightclub. And then when they're in nightclubs, they pull the booze. Yeah, Bob, pull the booze. They go there and they buy. And they don't want what is the cheapest drink? Coca-Cola without ice. Okay, that's what I want. And the old people say, what's your most expensive drink? Cocktail, Bisou, Chou, and Bonjour, Dior, Cartier. Oh, that's the one I want. So then those nightclubs, sales was going plateau and then down. And then they went for a different segmentation and different target. Sales went up big time, better than they ever been before, because it was a smaller target overall, but the 12 nightclubs were full and they were spending 3-5 times more in there. That's how you grow business, by looking at opportunities from an older population, still dancing, still active with more money than the young population, spending more, but it was just a different time in the day.
Can you say that last part, because I understand that it's an older population and you said we're going out at night?
No, younger. Young
Okay.
population, in Europe, I know in America it's 2 o'clock, everything is closed.
I
2 o'clock,
would I
that's when
say
it starts.
and they don't start like partying till probably 11 p.m. Like
Well, no, I mean, if you go to a nightclub in 11 p.m., you know what you find in France
no.
at 11 p.m.? You find yourself.
Yeah. You feel it. I did that my first time going out, and I think it was around 9 or 10:30, and I felt like an idiot, and I ended up going out again like around 12 or 1, and that was when it was packed.
Yeah, 12 or 1 is packed. If you go at 10 o'clock, they think you're looking for a job. That's when you go to be hired at 10 o'clock. So when you go at 1, it starts being packed. At 4 o'clock, people are bouncing on the floor. But then you take 70 years old or 83 years old, and you say you're going to have to start bouncing at 4 p.m., 4 a.m., sorry. It goes, you're out of your mind. I sleep, I dream at 4 a.m. So there's no way. So then you tell them, okay, no, it's from 2 to 6, and you make sure the toilets are clean and all of these different things. They don't look at it the same way. And so that nightclub had to make lots of adjustments. But then when they make the adjustments, their sales went up because they were doing a shift of target, but they didn't want to die. It's when things get tough that you got to start thinking outside of the box. And that's what they did. So it is interesting to see that from segmentation, targeting, and positioning, you can find some opportunities for sure, because it's the customer. And within the customer, you have the culture. And inside the culture, you have the subculture. And here, what was the subculture? Is young people subculture, night out, older people subculture, dancing night out. Very different. And when I was 20, in the nightclub, there was always a session of slow. A slow is like the dance that you have to do with a partner. And it was just this song, slow, and all of that. And when was the time of the slow? This is the time you went like this. Get going to meet someone, right? And then this disappeared. And so that music style sort of disappeared too. So the world is changing, and it gives opportunity, but it's different. And it's for people to see and grab. So when you segment, you have to think about these 5 characteristics to think about the quality of your segments. So are they accessible? Accessible means, that when you do the segmentation, they do exist. So let me tell you the problem with the segmentation is if you divide people, you have to be careful of not dividing too much, because if you divide too much, you end up with a micro segment. So if you say, we want to focus on men or women, okay, so then you say woman. Then age over 50, okay. Not educated, okay. Wealthy, okay. Pregnant, okay. But if you keep adding characteristics of segmentation, what happens? The size of your segments becoming smaller and smaller. What's the advantage of having a smaller and smaller size? Is then you know exactly who they are and what needs do they have. But if the segment becomes smaller, then they're not going to be profitable, or less likely to be profitable, because it's going to be like the opposite of mass. micro segmentation. Micro segmentation is good in only certain circumstances. If you're offering a very unique, dedicated, high-end service or product, but if you're not, by having more segments, you're creating less a smaller market, and as a smaller market is less interesting. So as accessible is it exists. It's a segment that exists. Substantiable, that's what I was explaining, is you don't want it to be too small to the fact that it's going to be a lot of work, but for very few potential customers. Differential, which means that the characteristics that you're using to divide your customers are salient. And I explained that before. Salient means that it's meaningful. You're not dividing just for the sake of dividing. It's a characteristics that really explain the difference between these people. Measurable, which means that you can have access to data that's going to allow you to know how many realistic number of this customer exists. And then actionable is once you identify this group of segments, that if you were to do something for them, they're really happy to get this product. So this was a, in France, it's illegal to ask someone their race. I don't know if you know this. When you go to France, when you get to the airport, they don't give you a little piece of paper, or they you go to a screen where you have to say, I am Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Caucasian, African, all this. They will never ask you because it is illegal. And when you do a survey and you ask people, you can't ask because it's illegal. It's a different point of view, but in France, they think that the more you ask people their race, the more it's going to bring the subject matter and make them realize that there's different races. As a matter of fact, I actually didn't even know my race before I came to America. If someone asked me my race, I would say, I guess I'm French. I seem to be white. I guess I'll call myself white. I actually didn't know what was my race. And so when I came to the first time I came in America, I was in '96, I think. And I was at the airport and I was signing documents, because back then they made you still sign documents that you are not a Nazi. So I said, no, I'm not a Nazi. I'm kind of too young to be a Nazi, but I guess, I don't know, I'm not a Nazi. And then, what is your race? I couldn't tell what was my race. So I asked the officer, what is my race, please? And he says, Caucasian. And I said, Caucasian? That's a race? It's terrible. Because when you translate this in French, it's Caucasien. And for us, Caucasian are people that live in Georgia or Uzbekistan. And in some way, now I'm being racist, but if you say a French person is from Georgia or Uzbekistan, they don't take it right. It's an insult or something like that. So Caucasian. So then I say, I guess I'm Caucasian. And then in America, they ask me all the time, what's my race? So now I know exactly I'm Caucasian. But anyhow, so not too long ago, a big company that you all know called L'Oreal, they make makeup, probably the largest makeup company in the world, brand, L'Oreal, started doing something that they do in America, because they said, you know what, in America, they make makeup for the Asians, so that's a target. And for African American, that's a target. And then for Caucasian, that's obviously a target. So they went in France and they started doing the same thing, making makeup for the different races in France. And people said, what? What kind of racism is this? Making different makeup for different races, L'Oreal is racist. So it's funny how making different makeup in America for different races is actionable. If you do it, each race goes, click their heel and say, this is my race, this is my makeup, because you train this way. And if you do it in France, which you try not to do that, when the L'Oreal started doing it, people call them racists for making different makeup. So it's all perspective, and it's all cultural. Different culture have different perspectives because of what they are trained. Very often people are not right or wrong. They are right in the context of their culture and wrong in the context of someone else's culture. So um, you can see what actionable means is, does the product is created for a specific group of people, who this group of people, once the product is delivered to them or proposed to them, will quickly realize that this is an opportunity for them to get something that is superior. So let me tell you about the three methods. So unfortunately, the literature call them strategies, but they are really not strategies, they are methods, more or less. So there's three methods to segments. One method is you decide, so it's really the no, is you do nothing. You decide that you're going to make milk, and milk is milk. Why do you have to do an STP for milk? Forget about it. So I think now everybody does STP, but I'm sure there was a time, probably 40 years ago, there was still some company saying milk is milk and not do any STP on it. In that situation, that company would say that it's undifferentiated segmentation methods. Same milk, one milk, no need. Then you say, you know what? No, we're going to do concentrated segmenting method. Concentrated segmenting method is, you say, we're going to make not just any milk, we're going to make a milk for that specific group of customers, one specific group. And then they'll say, you know what? I think it'll work also for that specific group. And I think it'll work for that other specific group. So essentially, it's not a specific milk for one specific group. It's a specific milk that overlaps to satisfy three different targets. Okay, so this is called concentrated. And then you have the third method, which is differentiated, where you say, no, 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 no. We're gonna make a specific milk for each, for specific targets, independent specific targets. So we're gonna make the milk for the older people because they need calcium and omega-3, for the young people because they need vitamins, and for the middle-aged people without lactose. So no lactose if you are from 30 to 65, omega-3 and calcium if you're 65 and above, and if you're less than 20, it's vitamin enhanced milk. And you communicate, you sell the product, you do 3 different packaging and all this for each one of these products. Now, do you have any question on these? No questions. Okay, so let me tell you so what I just said right now, maybe hopefully was clear, and that's why you have no question. But let me put it in practice. What's interesting in practice is if you are an entrepreneur, which Alex Ritchie in a way is, which you will be in the next class, which strategy is the most suited for an entrepreneur in most cases? Not 100%. Again, I go back, there's no such a thing 100% in business. But most of the time, 80% of the time, which one is best suited out of the A, B, C, the 3 for a business which is starting? Which one is better?
B?
B. Why B?
I'd say because you really have to narrow down exactly who your consumer is. You know, you don't have any there's less room for error. You kind of,
Exactly.
so you have to be like, you need to know exactly what the opportunity is, how you're going to capitalize on it, and like, you know, use your resources efficiently, I guess.
So your answer, Aaron, is 100%. But
Yeah.
your choice, but your choice is not 100%.
Oh.
Look, here's what you said. You essentially defined another one. Is you say, you said, because you're a small business, you have to concentrate all your resources exactly on something specific. in order to be frugal, but more focused.
Would you say that some errors when entrepreneurs start off is like trying to get into several markets?
Exactly, that's an error. Yeah, that's
Oh.
oftentimes so that what you're saying is complementary to Aaron, which is that's the problem of most businesses is they're trying to cover too many targets. So when you start, you have limited resources. So the best is to say, you know what, we're going to do quality before we do quantity. That's what Aaron said. I summarize it. Quality versus quantity. So if you do quality versus quantity, you say, you know what, there's lots of targets out there. We're not going to make a product that covers a few targets because that's going to be still not specific enough. So we're going to make a product that nails it. We're going to kill that target. We're going to own that small space, quality versus quantity. And then from there, we're either going to grow by expanding the amount of target that we're covering, or we're going to create another product for another targets because we can afford it. So we go step by step, one target at a time, and then we can do that. So if you're a small company, the best way is to say, let's have one target. But when you tell that to a client, I tell you the truth, when you tell that to a client that is covering too many targets and it's time to do more with less, usually the client freaks out and goes, no, that's too dangerous. I don't want to be one bullet. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. And then you start looking eye to eye and you go, yeah, that could be right. You all your eggs in one basket. Ugh, that's scary. But I tell you, there's more businesses that lose because they put too many eggs in too many baskets than businesses that lose because they put too many eggs in one basket. The risk, there's risks. It's just a lesser risk to put all you have in one area, you know. And there's a lot of historical military battle that were won like that, where you could see that there was an army that won with less people because they put all their resources on a weak point on their enemy. And number two is surprise. They got them by surprise. So surprise is the JND. The JND, and all you have on one spot, you will more likely succeed. You don't have that much, and you spread yourself, the likelihood is even greater that you fail. So do you see, Aaron? Now, does that make sense to you? Why it has to be C?
Yeah.
So, but the image you see here is wrong because I say marketing mix one target. If you're a small business, you have marketing mix one target. You don't have marketing mix one target, marketing mix two, one target, 23, one target, marketing mix 5, marketing 20. You don't multiply your mix, right? This is an example, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So who has marketing mix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Coca-Cola. You know Coca-Cola has how many? I think it's like it's thousands of SKUs, thousands. I did we did it with the students. That was the client 2 years ago. I'm pretty sure it's more than 5,000 different products that they sell, Coca-Cola. So their target, I mean, they have so many divisions and all this. It's a company that could fail, you know, because they have so much going on. It's just a huge company. So obviously they would be C. Every time they see an opportunity, every time they see a new target, they make a new product. They can afford it. So why you and again, I go back to what I said 2 minutes ago, is what I'm saying right now, it's 80% of the time. That's what you would want to do. There's 20% of the time where you may want to do B. So when do you do B in this 20% of the time is when you are creating some kind of huge innovation. And the innovation is so big that you can afford to have multiple targets at once because your competitors are far from being able to go and copy you. And in that situation, because they can't copy you, maybe you have a patent that protects you for a few years. And therefore, for a few years, you don't have to be so like a scope, like a sniper scope. Look at that target, is you can actually widen a little bit. But most of the, so if we think about Alex Ritchie right now, 80% of the chances, again, I'm not saying 100%, maybe there's a group that sees a different vision, but my vision is, I would say this, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1, one target. Tier 2, maybe still the same thing, but you just do more. And tier 3, then they go in concentrated. So I would start with the differentiated, and then I would move into concentrated. 80% of the chances. That would be your ST, your targeting method solution, is to find that specific group that it can be really a lot for. You see, and then people will tell you, oh my God, this is wonderful because it makes it easier to do TikTok. It makes it easier to do social media because you can really target the subject that you're going to cover. You can target the people and the video and the music and the themes and all of this. Yes, it makes it a lot easier, right? That target doesn't have to be tiny. I didn't say it's a micro target, but I don't think the target one is going to be Latinos. As a, what is your target? You know, in 3 weeks, Latinos. It's too wide. You have to add some other characteristics of the target. Okay, so Latinos that likes reggaeton, okay? Latinos who are over 50 years old and go to church. And I don't know what it is, but it's not based on an ID. It's based on an opportunity. What I'm saying right now to you is based on an ID. I'm making it up. Based on opportunity that you see. All right? Do you have any question on this?
I do, but I guess I could ask them later because I have to think about how I want to ask it. I can't really think about. I can't really put into words yet.
Okay. So let me give you some example. Imagine you're a lawyer. So a lawyer, you can be a business lawyer. You can be a trial lawyer, immigration lawyer, medical lawyer, estate planning lawyer, personal injury lawyer, family lawyer. So these are all the lawyers you can be. And then you gonna start working on this. What could you do? And you go, oh, maybe I'll do immigration, right? Then there's this law firm, Jeff Anderson and Associates. Jeff Anderson and Associates is a lawyer for people who have been molested by church people. That's all he does. He said, you know what? There's people getting car accidents. They have neck injury. I'm going to do neck injury. What's the just noticeable difference? Then he looks, he takes the yellow page, he takes Yelp, he takes Google, and he finds that there's 1 million lawyers for neck injury in America. He goes, that's a pretty saturated market. Then he search divorce, millions, you know, business, thousands, and so forth. So then he goes, who are specializing church molesters? And then he finds nobody. Who is being molested by someone from the church? Nobody. And then he says, well, nobody says. And then he starts scratching. Oh, here's one. Here's two. Here's three. And then he finds, geez, there's only three, but the more you scratch, the more you find. Okay, let me be the person that reveal all these people and take care of it. And then he became a lawyer just specialized in this. So it's like more and more people are talking. This is becoming an opportunity. This is what I'm going to be focused on. You think he went to law school thinking he was going to be a lawyer specialized in church? He did STP. It's like I'm a lawyer. I'm a starving lawyer. What do? I find a space that I have the skills, the strength, which means I know litigation, I know trial, I know family law, and I don't know if you knew anything about church and all these different things. You just learn and you become the go-to place for that specific things. All right. Here's another one, and I'll finish with this: Steyr, Daimler, Puch. Who knows Steyr, Daimler, Puch? Nobody knows Steyr, Daimler, Puch. It's an Austrian company that makes like a military vehicle and all of this. They have an association with other manufacturers. If you look at this vehicle, you may say, it looks like this fancy whatever thing. Well, they had an order from Iran of a lot of Steyr Daimler Puch for the Iranian army. At the last minute, the Iranian army said, sorry, we're not going to buy these. So they had all of this pre-produced car and they didn't know what to do with it. What are we going to do? We have excess products. We are selling to the military. What can we do? So then they went to talk to Mercedes and they said, oh, there is these people in Beverly Hills. There is those rappers. There's those celebrities. They will want it, but we can't call it Steyr Daimler Puch. We're going to call it Mercedes G55 AMG Super Turbo Bi-Turbo Compressor Limited Edition. And then we'll put some leather, we'll put some gold. And you know what? Sold out. Waiting list. So that's what happens. Is something maybe worth nothing to one group, it may be worth something else to another group. STP is this idea that there's lots of people out there. You have to look at people and identify their problems and see who you can satisfy better with their problems. So research. You have to do the research in order to find who they are.